This is the July 16th, 2020 meeting of the Bloomington Environmental Commission. And we will start with quorum confirmation. And I see that we have 7 people, 7 commissioners so far, so we're ready to go on that. And then we'll go to introductions. I am Mike Littman, a commission member, the vice chair and acting chair today. And we'll go alphabetically again. Matt?
Matt Faldy, Commissioner.
Meredith?
Meredith Dickerson, Commissioner.
Don?
Commissioner.
Susanna?
Susanna Comfort, Commissioner.
Andrew's absent. Shelby?
Shelby Hoshaw, Commissioner.
Reagan? Reagan? Oh, he's absent. That's right. Daniel?
Daniel Olson, Commissioner.
And David?
Dave Parker's Commissioner.
Now for Linda. Linda?
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. Linda Thompson, Environmental Planner Liaison to the Commission.
Okay, and then our student assistants.
And Kate Corcoran, SPIA Fellow and intern, and I'm here.
Jesus Rivera, intern.
Okay, is there anybody here from the public who would like to introduce themselves? Hearing nobody, we'll move on to approval of the June and February minutes. We'll start with February. It's been a long time on that one. I had read them and confirmed that I was satisfied with it in the past, so I didn't revisit it. Does anybody have any comments on the February minutes? I guess the people that were not on the commission at that time are welcome to abstain or whatever they want to do. So let's take a vote on approving the February minutes. Oh, let's have a motion first.
I so move.
Oh, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor of approving February minutes, say aye.
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 And raise your hand. Yeah, okay. And now the June minutes. I guess technically we should have a motion first.
I think they're fine. I move we accept them.
Second.
Okay, any comments on the June minutes? In that case, everybody in favor of approving the June minutes, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Is anybody able to get a head count on this? I don't see everybody at the same time. Linda, could you tell?
Thought everybody's hands were up.
Well, for some reason, my setup doesn't let me see everybody at the same time.
I could have seen, but I wasn't paying close enough attention.
Okay, anybody who is opposed to approving the June minutes, say nay. Hearing none, assume that the minutes are approved. Next item is public comment. Do we have anybody from the public who would like to comment? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to reports from the various commissions that we sit in on. First one would be the Tree Commission.
Tree Commission met yesterday morning. We looked at the Urban Foresters report, talked about a bunch of trees that had been marked for removal and sent to the streets department. There were 11 trees like that. There were 3 or 4 trees marked for emergency removal, and some trail and storm tree cleanup was done. Upcoming activities,
What's there here for me? Anything?
What?
I get it.
Upcoming, is somebody else talking? What's happening? Upcoming.
I beg your pardon. I did not have my mute on. I think it was probably my son.
Oh, okay. Upcoming activities of the Parks Board. They'll be talking about a removal contract with Bluestone and with J.R. Ellington at the Cascades Golf Course. And they're forming an agreement with the community orchard. And ongoing activities include watering trees, pruning in some council districts, and working with the Bartlett tree experts on ash tree treatment and marking and removing hazardous trees. And then the tree commission itself talked about that IU is hiring an arborist. I guess I said that last time around too. They've been doing some watering. Their help is thin because of the virus, but there wasn't much tree damage from the recent storm, although there was a lot in the city, I think. And then we, let's see. I can't read what my next note is. We talked about who had actually responded to the letter in the newspaper that we, the Environmental Commission and the Tree Commission had sent out. And we did get responses from, I think, the head of the library board and from, I'm forgetting her name, somebody on the sustainability, the person who is the city equivalent of Linda for the Sustainability Commission, asked some questions and got some information from Tom Coleman. So that's the Tree Commission.
That would be Lauren.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
Was there anything significant in the response from the library?
Well, basically said our plans are still not made for certain. So it was, things are still open. And I guess that's significant.
Okay. Next report would be from the County Environmental Commission.
If it actually exists.
I sat in on it. Just as from the public, I can give a little bit of an update if no one else has anything.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I had trouble today finding their minutes for the meeting, so I had to basically just go off my notes. And there were actually 4 discussion points, but I only wrote down 2 things that they discussed for most of the meeting. The Monroe County Environmental Commission, mainly, they spent a lot of time discussing what their plans for the rest of the year are going to be. One thing is they want to send out a survey throughout the county addressing for feedback from the public about what people want to know about environmentally or concerns that people have, et cetera. This made up most of the discussion for their meeting. I thought it was interesting. I was going to bring it up during commissioner announcements about maybe us collaborating with them on this. They really want to collect a lot of data on what people are interested in environmentally and what they need to address for the rest of the year, especially now that with COVID, things have just changed so drastically. And then another thing they were talking about was a social media outreach. I think developing some social media platforms, et cetera, so people can get more information easily or much more easily from the Monroe County Environmental Commission, which was another thing I wanted to bring up about us doing social media outreach. So those are 2 key talking points from their meeting. If anyone can help me find their minutes, they don't post them online. They have the video recorded for the meeting. And I remember talking to the president or the chair, I'm sorry, not the president, the chair of the commission at the time. And I'm having trouble finding the video. So yeah, that's what I got.
Okay, thank you. Next would be the Sustainability Commission, Bloomington Sustainability Commission.
Most of the actual meeting presentation was their Lauren, what is her title? Lauren's title again?
She's the Assistant Director of Sustainability in the economic.
Basically, she serves the same function as.
Yeah, as me. She's the liaison. She's got a different title, but she's the liaison with the BCOS like I am with EC.
Yeah, my take was that she's basically akin to your position. She spent the bulk of the time as far as actual information was related to the climate action vulnerability assessment that I think that you're working on as well, Linda.
Yes.
So she went through a slide presentation, PowerPoint slides on that, and discussed aspects that are going to go into that and then to the report to the city council. And then after that, it really broke down more into a prolonged discussion of the issues they were having with commissioners and not having quorum. Bylaw.
Breaking out.
Is their bylaws were basically similar to ours. I think they only allowed 3 missing meetings, and apparently they've been having a number of people that they have missed more than that. So it was, and then they also got into the discussion of whether they should have a vote for new officers. So it was basically a lot of, that was pretty much the summation of the meeting. Again, the parallelisms of things that we're related to are germane to us. We don't have necessarily the same financial or business mission that they have, but as far as environmental aspects, it seemed they're pretty much in the same boat that we are.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Next would be ERAC. That's the Parks Department Environmental Resources Advisory Council. Okay.
Right. Our June 2020 meeting, we first talked about what's closed and what's open because of the virus in the Parks Department. And they're being careful about disinfection at Griffey Boathouse. I think they're using chlorine up there for some reason. We talked about, again, water quality at Leonard Springs Park. It's been bad, particularly the water coming from Shirley Springs, and it's affecting microinvertebrates. They don't know whether the problem is cattle or septic systems or what, and they're researching it further. So more information later. Talk briefly about programs where you adopt a stream, adopt an acre, and adopt a trail. Talked about updates at Switchyard Park, including lots of landscape work. The Griffey Lake Master Plan is being updated piece by piece. Recently at the Clear Creek Trail, there were 22 acres of woody material removed. And I may have reported this last time, but apparently the Parks Department has removed or planted, 15,000 trees in the last 3 years in 14 locations this year. And in places, deer predation of seedlings has been a problem. So they fenced some of them. And at one point there was a resident who complained, oh, those fences around those trees are ugly, but they're needed if you want to keep the trees. So there's that. That's what I have for ERAC.
Okay, next is the Metropolitan Planning Organization Citizens Advisory Committee.
I think that's an Andrew thing.
I sat through also the Citizens Advisory Committee as well.
Great.
So I can give a little bit of update once again, just limited to my notes at the current moment. 1 second. Pat Martin and Ryan Clemens sat in and gave basically an update on the 2045, give me a quick second. Actually, it's all right. I'm just going to share with you guys their minutes link right here. There's a lot to it to share. But basically, they went over transportation numbers, public transportation numbers, what they're projecting. One key thing that I noted that Pat Martin brought up was that they're expecting public transportation over the next 5 years. It's going to be a 5-year process before it recovers. One else. They went over the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan survey and what they're hoping to get from the survey. And basically that was it. It was just a basic presentation over that. Any questions?
Okay, thanks for that. Next item is the Friends of Lake Monroe. Dave, do you want to do that?
I've already done 2. Why don't you?
Okay. Dave and I both sat in on their virtual meeting last night. They had a wonderful presentation of photographs of Lake Monroe by a fellow named Louis Tinson. I can't remember his last name is now. Do you remember, Dave, what his last name was?
I think it's Louis Tenney.
Tenney, right. Louis Tenney. He spends a good part of his time out there apparently in a kayak taking photographs, and he had wildlife photographs as well as landscape photographs, and very, very, very good ones.
Lots of sunsets and sunrises.
I think he said he had them on his Facebook page, so you might give that a try if you want to take a look at them. Beyond that, Maggie Sullivan just gave an update on the Watershed Study situation. They've had to cut that back somewhat because of the epidemic, but they're still working on it, and they gave some future dates for various milestones and what they're going to be working on next.
I might comment on that. In September 18, they'll be looking for volunteers to go out and do sampling. So if anybody's interested, email me and I'll connect you to the person who is taking the reservations.
Sounds good. Anything else I forgot?
Nothing comes to mind.
Okay, that's the end of the reports then, and we'll move on to our own working groups or committees. The B cycle, the first of which would be outreach. Do we have anything on outreach?
I think that, our plan had been to submit a letter to the HG once a month. And since we had the letter related to the middle school, I think that was the library, the letter related to the library, that was going to be our outreach for this month.
Okay. And that was just what went to the newspaper or to other agencies was basically our outreach. Okay.
After listening to and watching Mayor Hamilton's presentation on YouTube, I think that I'd like to rethink the letter on energy because of what he outlined as far as that. And I think that we need to, I think both the Sustainability and Environmental Commission really need to help out with the mayor's outline program. I think that the city's going to need all the help they can get.
Yeah, I think definitely connecting your letter and energy to the mayor's recent announcements is really helpful. Like I think tying it to that will help it get published. So if you want to submit another version of it, Don, go for it.
Yeah, I think that because when the pandemic hit and the tax fell basically in limbo, effects of addressing energy and the climate change is there's now looks like there's going to be a structure to work within where the city can actually do more than just suggest to people ways that they can save on energy. And also I think that bringing out the idea of social justice, I thought the whole presentation to me was, I was very impressed. I don't know how the rest of you, if any of the rest of you have already watched it, but thank you. Thank you, Linda, for sending the link.
You're welcome.
Okay, next would be the Plan Committee. Review of Plan Commission petitions.
Okay, I have one to talk about. There's only one case for the Plan Commission next time. And given our way of having a meeting here, I won't be able to show you a lot, but
Somebody needs to mute.
It's Linda.
wait. I'm talking. Is that okay? Everybody okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna put this up here, and I know you can't see this, but I don't know what exactly else to do. This is oh, now I gotta do it upside down and backwards. This is Rogers Street, and this is Switchyard Park. And this is the warehouse. And this is 3 acres of a warehouse. Grimes Lane is along here, and this is Storage Express. And this is all current warehouse, and you access it by West Hillside. So this is a giant warehouse that is no longer needed because Thompson Manufacturer's not in business. So the proposal is to tear that down and to build housing on the north and the south ends. Are proposed tall buildings, 5 stories, parking on the bottom, apartments on the top. And then in the middle, they're proposing to put a street down it and have like townhouses right along the Beeline Trail and small lot single houses along the other small houses. And I know you can't see this at all. You have to use your imagination. And so I'm not going to take up a lot of time. But anyway, the cool thing is there'll be a lot of housing. There'll be quite a bit of affordable units there. And all of the houses and the 5-story buildings will be are going to be required to be LEED certified. So they so far the only thing I've had to say about their proposal is they haven't shown us where the street trees are yet, but that'll come along. But so far it sounds like a fabulous new neighborhood. And basically that's all I've got to say about it. I'm not going to try to show you the big rendering.
Okay, and that's the only petition we have for the Plan Commission right now?
Yes.
Okay. I assume there's nothing from the biodiversity group. That's something reorganized over the last month. So we will move on to.
Could I ask a question of Linda?
Sure.
Could I ask a question of Linda? Linda, do you know what type of construction they're going to use?
What type of construction?
Yes.
I don't know about the 5-story buildings, but the houses look similar to the South Dunn neighborhood, like kind of small bungalows for the single family houses, and then more like townhouse looking things for the ones that are going to overlook the park. Those will be very small and on a smaller footprint, but they'll be 3 stories tall.
What's concerned me was the 5-story buildings. We are soil-wise, Bloomington is not that bad for seismic risk.
Wait a minute, you're breaking up. I didn't hear you.
We are in a region of moderate seismic risk. A warning that I feel obligated to bring up is parking garages on multi-story buildings at the ground floor are potentially a major threat. They're considered to be engineering-wise to be what's called a soft first story. And the structural discontinuity with the overlying structures tends to result in that lower floor collapsing and triggering a pancaking. So that would be right off the bat a concern I would have. I understand that it reduces the footprint of having the parking in that story. So that's why I'm asking about the structure, whether they would be used a steel reinforcement.
I don't know,
if I
Don.
had my magic power. Okay.
I don't know, but I will ask the question.
That is a real major seismic hazard concern.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for that. I'll find out from the architect.
Anything more on that? Okay, the next item is old business, and that specifically is the new paper column letter for the Bachelor School Library Project.
Yeah, well, I didn't mention when I talked about the tree commission yesterday that first of all, they voted unanimously to allow that column, which I sent to everybody. I hope you all got it. And so they all agreed that that should go out. And also they voted this time not to have all their individual names on the column as they did on their letter, which I found to be something of a nuisance, and at least some of them did too. So they voted not to have all individual names. So the column, if we agree to it, will go out with that it's sponsored by the Tree Commission and the Environmental Commission, and it will be submitted to the Herald Times by Tom Coleman. He was maybe going to join us tonight, but apparently hasn't. And so he and I sort of have been the major movers of that issue, but Linda, in fact, wrote most of the column that I sent to you yesterday, and then a bunch of people contributed to it. And so I hereby move that we also agree to send it under the name of the Environmental Commission along with the Tree Commission.
Can I say a couple things?
Get a
Please.
second first. We have a second? Ah, okay.
Susanna says yes.
Okay. Linda, go ahead.
In the very first sentence, this is really a pretty small deal. It says, blah, 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 and the Tree Commission have learned about a proposal. Would it be better grammatically if the word have was taken out?
I would say at this point, since the Tree Commission approved it, Dave, you can maybe speak to this more. If we're going to make any recommended changes, they should be real red flags, because otherwise it will have to go back to the Tree Commission again.
This is totally not a red flag at all.
So,
Yeah.
Dave, do you think that could be approved, like that could be approved without another vote over there?
And it's no big deal if it's in there. I think it's grammatically fine both ways. I just know a lot of times writers don't want to have words like have and had and stuff in there. So it's really no big deal.
Yeah, I
Well,
saw
let's-
something like that
let's-
too, but I decided to
Let's
pass
go
on
with
it.
it since the thing has, let's
Yeah.
keep it as it is since it's already been voted on by the other folks.
I think that sounds fine.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, then we'll do our weird voting method again. Everybody.
Oh, one more thing. I really like the small changes that were made, Dave.
Mhm.
I thought those were really good edits.
Made by a whole bunch of people, including my forester wife. So
Okay, well, let's have a vote. Everybody in favor of approving this letter, say aye and raise your hand.
I,
Anybody, could anybody that sees everybody at the same time give me a head count?
well, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 out of the 7 members here.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Put that in the record. And we will move on to new business.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing all that work on that. First item is an environmental justice statement, which I gather might be put together by Kate and Jesus.
Yes. Jesus and I have been brainstorming together what that statement might look like, and we talked to Linda a little bit this morning about it, and we came up with a couple of options, and I sent them out, but right before the meeting started. So I imagine most of you haven't looked over it, but there are a couple of options of short statements that we could maybe make as an EC, and I'd be happy to go ahead and read them if you guys would like to get an idea of what we're thinking of.
Sure.
Does that sound okay? Okay, so the first option that we had come up with was the Bloomington Environmental Commission is committed to the sustainable and equitable development of our community. This includes ensuring our community develops in a way that does not disproportionately expose vulnerable minority and low-income populations to environmental hazards, such as increased rates of air pollution, water pollution, dust, odor, noise and light pollution, illegal dumping, and toxic runoff into neighborhoods and nearby water bodies. The Environmental Commission is working to build a deeper body of research that fundamentally addresses historical and ongoing environmental justice issues by which we can educate ourselves and our community. When the Environmental Commission reviews new developments in our city, we are committed to viewing the development plans through the lens of environmental justice and will incorporate this perspective into our recommendations going forward. Okay. Okay, so then we had another statement that we wrote up just to give another option of what we might say. So again, I also emailed these out to you guys beforehand if you do want to read along or anything, but I can go ahead and read that second option as well. It's similar, but a little different. So the second option we came up with is the Bloomington Environmental Commission is committed to the sustainable and equitable development of our community. Land use policies and local zoning codes have historically been tools for segregating people and concentrating pollution in low-income and minority communities. The Environmental Commission is committed to thoughtful and deliberate city planning that addresses the cumulative environmental burdens borne by these communities. The Environmental Commission is working to build a deeper body of knowledge and understanding of historical and ongoing environmental justice issues, which we can use to educate ourselves and our community. When the Environmental Commission reviews new developments in our city, we are committed to viewing the development plans through the lens of environmental justice and will incorporate this perspective into our recommendations going forward.
Are there any significant differences between those two options that you think we should be aware of?
Mostly just in how they, I guess the second sentence of them is different. They both start with that the commission is committed to sustainable and equitable development in our community. But then the second one kind of goes on to say that this means ensuring the community develops in a way that doesn't expose vulnerable minority communities to all these environmental hazards, and then kind of lists them all off. But then it goes on to say that basically we're trying to educate ourselves, and going forward, we want to incorporate this in how we make recommendations. And then the second option, again, starts out with like the exact same sentence as the first one, but the second option just kind of starts right after that by saying that land use policies and local zoning codes have been used to concentrate pollution in certain communities, and that we are committed to thoughtful and deliberate city planning. And then the second, or I guess the last two sentences are basically the same as in the first option. So the only difference is kind of like that first middle part.
I'm looking at them online, and it seems, and I've read through them with her, and it seems like the first one actually lists specific things like air pollution and smog and that sort of thing. And the second one doesn't list specific things. I like the first one.
Okay.
I like the first one so far. I like the first one better also. Let's hear number 3.
Okay, there was one third one that I just figured maybe we would want a little shorter one. So the third one is the Bloomington Environmental Commission is committed to the sustainable and equitable development of our community. Land use policies and local zoning codes have historically been tools for concentrating pollution and other environmental hazards in low-income and minority communities. The Environmental Commission is committed to raising awareness around these environmental justice issues, as well as advocating for thoughtful and deliberate city planning that addresses the cumulative environmental burdens borne by low-income and minority communities going forward.
I like number 1, but I don't get to vote.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Upon reading the email before the meeting started, I really liked the way the third one read, but I also see the value of having the increased detail that there is in the first one. So, but I like a couple of them.
I guess the only comment I have, I like the first one, and the only issue that I would add to it was that tradition, as far as hazards go, flooding in particular is one that low-income and minority communities are nationally, globally more vulnerable to. So with climate change and et cetera, and increased risk of flooding, that's something that I think we should be highlighting. Also, again, like my rethinking of what I had written before about energy, Again, tying it again, because the mayor's program that he outlined, again, stresses so much the environment, or social justice. We can, again, plug the mayor's plan and support the mayor's plan by incorporating that in the letter.
Okay, I think we can definitely put in flooding if we were to go with the first option, since it lists out specific environmental hazards. We could easily put that in that list.
It does say water bodies and nearby water bodies.
Maybe
Yeah.
flooding is more specific and more understandable to people.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I also wanted to mention, though, that we wanted to make a statement, but I recall from the last meeting that we also talked about submitting a letter to the HT, or not a letter, but a column about environmental justice, and doing that as a commission as well. So if we were to elaborate on something like the mayor's plan, or anything else more local, or just any elaboration in general, we could also put into our column that we want to submit.
Is the idea to pick one of these tonight and make it official, or what's the proposal?
Oh, some of us, including myself, have not read these yet. I don't
Yes,
think it's a little early to actually have a vote on it.
Okay.
I like the idea of, we also have to decide on what the form of it's going to be. I like the idea of submitting it as a letter to the HT, which we've been doing anyway, but maybe we can decide on that tonight.
A guest column, though, would give us more room to elaborate a little bit more on detail.
That's what we've been doing, is guest columns.
Oh, okay. You said letter. I thought you just said letter.
Yeah, I did, but you have to interpret my.
All right.
One of the things that Jesus and Kate and I talked about today was just a statement from the EC, which is what Kate has presented tonight, and then take that statement and include it in what do they call, not this, the 600 word special editorial thing to write out, because they've been doing a lot of research on this, and so they have the material to write an entire guest editorial that would include this, but this would be the EC's just statement on environmental justice.
Yeah, can I just add thank you to Jesus and Kate, because I think you guys did a really nice job getting us started talking about this, because I think it's really important and really matters. I'm definitely all for submitting a letter to the editor or whatever, but I also think that moving forward, we should think about how we want this to be actionable for the EC. So for example, like Linda just introduced that planning project. I wonder if like environmental justice needs to be kind of on our checklist of when we're talking about a project like that. Like, it all sounds good. I mean, we might say this project really helps, like, rectify issues of justice and equity. It may, I don't actually know, but somebody with some expertise, and maybe we could create a committee or whatever, we'll have to look more closely at that project and think about the neighborhood it's in, think about any flooding or other environmental issues that might be related, and include that kind of in our comments to the Plan Commission or whoever moving forward. So I don't know, I know nobody wants another committee, but I think this is a big enough topic that perhaps having a subcommittee on it would be meaningful.
Susanna, I was thinking the exact same thing. What came to mind when reading these statements right after that proposal from the Plan Commission was the affordable housing aspect, which I heard a little bit about, but I would love to go deeper into that, especially if we're writing in our statement that we're committed to looking into those issues, not just a cursory look, but a deeper look. The one thing I will say about the statements is wow, they're amazing. You guys did great. I really like in the second statement that there's an acknowledgement in the second sentence about how land use policies and local zoning codes have historically been tools for segregating people. It's drawing attention to the environmental, the deliberate decision within environmental and planning to segregate Black and Brown communities away from white communities, which was the historical purpose of them, and then systematically concentrating pollution became kind of an unintended consequence. But we could also kind of pick and choose and merge those two statements together. I just liked that it pointed out the deliberate choices that people have made in the past, and that in the environmental commissions like us, you know, we have to really pay attention to that.
Supporting you, the first thing comes to my mind is East Chicago. And that is the epitome, I think, in Indiana, and also issues in Gary area as well, of real live hazardous environmental injustice.
I think I agree with, I think this is what you said, Meredith. I think, what I think is that we should add this part out of the second writing to the first one. That would be my choice, so that they're both parts, the individual problems and that business about zoning and so on.
Yeah, can I add?
Both be there.
Can I add one other thing? And this is really partake on zoning, but when I sat in on the MPO Citizens Advisory Committee, we were actually discussing the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. One criticism of it was the lack of social justice that was mentioned in the plan. And they found out someone from the Environmental Commission was just sitting and listening. They were very excited because they're like, we hope environmentally, specifically talking about public transportation also affecting people socially and environmentally, and discrimination, that in the MTP, it wasn't mentioned anything about making, being proactive on public transportation socially and affecting people, and that affects the environment as well. So yeah, just want to bring that up.
Meredith, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be one of my recommendations too, is to pick out that sentence, because I think it is important for us all to acknowledge it, and most importantly for the community to see that we acknowledge like the history of this. And I used to live in the near West Side, and that historically was a Black neighborhood. And as Bloomington started increasing, that community was pushed out of that neighborhood. And so I think it definitely is really relevant to how we're planning and creating things in our own city too.
Well, it seems like we have general agreement that we really want to do something here. How about if everybody sends their comments to Kate and Jesus, and we'll get hopefully get something finalized for the next meeting to vote on. And also, it sounds like there's interest in forming a committee to explore how we can incorporate this into our planning reviews. So maybe we could have people also indicate their interest in being on a committee, either now or by email later on. Any thoughts on that?
I know that it's really common for cities to do like environmental impact statements, but in places that are rife with gentrification, like New York, specifically in Brooklyn, there was a proposal last summer to do racial impact statements whenever there was development proposed. This could be something that we just keep in mind if we're doing a committee. It sounds like there was like a little bit of interest in looking at affordable housing, but also like the racial impacts of any kind of development. I don't know how we would implement that. I can look into how New York was looking to implement that, but I just thought that was something that was really cool that went hand in hand with environmental justice.
Yeah, it just something crossed my mind is in Indianapolis, there's a tremendous amount of gentrification taking place. And again, some of the older neighborhoods that became African-American neighborhoods, and now they're being gentrified. And again, the African and Hispanic Americans are being pushed out by gentrification. Again, this is an issue that's even here in Indiana.
Any other discussion on this? Okay, so we will get comments by mail, have a final product for the next meeting, and show the willingness of people to form an ad hoc committee to work on how the Environmental Commission itself can address this. Get all of that done by the next meeting.
Can I ask a question? Linda, do we have maps and information that does show the breakdown of social, economic, racial neighborhoods in Bloomington? Is this?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good.
Pollution can be included in that sort of thing too. I don't know if that's much of an issue in Bloomington, but I used to live in South Texas, and the Beaumont area had the largest oil refinery in the world, and black neighborhoods were right next to it. And the black citizens in Beaumont had a 15% higher cancer rate than the white citizens. And I'm sure that's true other places as well. I don't know if that's going to be much of an issue for Bloomington. But.
Going back to the PCB issues, where the Lemon landfill, may not necessarily have been African Americans, but it certainly impacted people of lower income. A dumb question. Back with some time ago, one of our meetings some time ago, there was a concern about problems with the water over there by JB Salvage. Has anything further happened related to that?
That was with Mercury, wasn't it?
I think that, I remember it being metals, some form metal related.
I don't know the
Water
latest.
contamination.
I don't know the latest on that. I know that they were monitoring it, and that information is probably available at IDEM, but I haven't personally kept up on it, so I just don't know any updates.
So the people that brought it to our attention haven't been brought it back up with us?
Not that I know of.
Huh.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is sort of connected to this, I think, because we're going to get some updates from Kate and Jesus on their status with the commission and what the current status of what things that they've been working on.
Okay, I can start. Well, I will be here for just a couple more weeks because I'm finishing up my last 2 classes for my dual degree, and I recently accepted a job with the EPA in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to be a policy analyst in their Clean Air Markets division, and I'm moving there next month. So I have to wrap up my time on the EC, which is a bummer, but I'm also really excited to get going and have a job after graduation. It's pretty good feeling. So thank
Congrats.
you. I'll miss you very much, but I will be leaving, and I won't be here. This will be my last meeting. So this is it for me. Yeah. I guess my other update would be that I have been working on the green space report, but I'm still looking for a couple of pieces. I guess for those of you who weren't here when I started working on it, the Environmental Commission has in the past done a green space report for the city of Bloomington, where we just, I guess you would say, catalog and analyze all of the green space in the city. And I was doing that at the beginning of this year or this semester, because I was taking an applied GIS course. And I had a little trouble with it towards the end because of the pandemic and getting all of the data that I needed, like from the city computers and from certain city employees. But I'm confident that I can wrap that up before I leave. So I guess that's the only update I have for you right now on that.
I have an update as well. If Kate, I don't want to, are you good?
Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So this is a project that Kate and I kind of started a little while ago. Through much of last winter, we were trudging through snow and a couple of snow and mud in a couple of these spots, but we were doing sort of an environmental commitments review. You know that you all give recommendations on plans, and in theory, like, these things are supposed to be followed up on by developers. So we kind of tried to do sort of a review as to where a lot of those commitments stand, you know, a year or more out after the development was supposed to have been done. So we largely surveyed, I want to say, I might be forgetting some, but it was retention, detention ponds, and then a couple of bioswales as well. Throughout town, I think we kind of did a survey of about 18 different developments. This might not surprise you all, but the big overarching theme is that for the most part, regrettably, in instances where developers were meant to have committed to doing native plantings, there was usually something that wasn't quite correct. Either we found a lot of locations where the plantings in the ponds or the bioswales themselves had been mowed, or where they just weren't taken care of enough and invasive species had already started taking over. We do want to give props to a couple of folks. Specifically, this was a city development, and I always forget the name of it. Is it Evergreen Village, maybe, Linda? Yeah, Evergreen Village.
Yes.
They did a great job, and they actually have a designated area that they have indicated, please do not mow or spray or do anything to that space whatsoever. So they actually did follow through. But for the most part, we would say there's mixed success. And part of the reason we took a little bit long is because we were partnering with IU, because as much as we might be able to identify some things, we're not really super good experts at identifying specific natives versus not. So Heather, who works at IU, was able to kind of help us out in identifying a lot of these things. So I have some finer points. We've developed basically sort of a report with sort of an overview and then individual project notes that we're working on making a little pretty for you all. There's going to be some photos as well, and then we'll be sending it over at some point. But I'm happy to answer a few questions if you have them sort of pretty quickly.
I don't have any questions, but that sounds amazing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Cool.
Unrelated, but since Kate is leaving soon, I'm assuming within the next couple of weeks, Jesus, if you need help going over the revisions for the statement, I can jump in.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
Kate's place.
Cool. Thank you.
Anything else on that? Any questions? Not, we will move on to commissioner announcements. And again, we will do that alphabetically. So Matt, do you have anything?
One personal announcement is, as of this week, I have solar panels on my roof. So we got no sun today, so no energy generated now, but I'm excited looking forward.
Okay, great. Meredith.
Nothing personal to announce. Congratulations, Kate. That sounds like a dream. Have fun in DC.
Thank you.
Don?
Basically, just an update from MC Iris. They are quite pleased with their targeting of Asian bush honeysuckle. I forgot the total number of people that have submitted. But I know people in my own, a surprising number of people have been removing their honeysuckle, including on my own street. And that's impressive. And also they're now thinking about going ahead with the similar project for next year. And the sort of the game plan that was brought up at Thursday's meeting was to maybe whether it remain with Asian bush honeysuckle or possibly greenbrier, and I forgot the other one off the top of my head. But the discussion was maybe to have more than one or pick a new target invasive. So that's something that again touches on for several other people on the commission's concerns of invasive plants. And myself and a couple of my neighbors have been helping out at Southeast Park. Trying to help the city. Anyhow, I think it's helping, hopefully.
Okay. Susanna.
No announcements, but Kate, I want to tell you, I lived in DC for 10 years after college and I loved it. I worked for an environmental NGO. There's tons of NGOs based there. So if you get bored with the EPA, you should think about jumping to the NGO side because it's a little more fun in my personal opinion. But the EPA, of course, does really important work. So they're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Shelby.
I have no announcements.
Okay. Reagan's not here. Daniel.
So what I brought up with the Monroe County Environmental Commission, I'm going to bring up two things. So they're, the survey they're doing, and I think this could have been brought up in new business, but I figured I'd just wait for announcements. But the survey they're doing, when I was listening to it, it sounds like they want to do a survey basically from Monroe County to gather what their goals will be for 2021. And I don't recall the timeline they had for sending out the survey, but I'm wondering as to how everyone would feel about me reaching out to them and see if we could collaborate with them on this survey and work with them, maybe to our benefit, to collect as much data as possible from people on what the environmental needs of the community are from citizens. And also, their big concern is just from an outreach standpoint with any survey, the number one goal is to get out.
She's not here. Can you call me back in about 10 minutes? I'm in a meeting right now. Yeah, no problem.
The goal of any survey mainly is to get as many responses as possible. So I think it would be to our benefit to collaborate with them. They may say no, and then I guess next meeting I could bring up the idea of us doing our own survey. It just sounds like a good idea. They even brought up the point of why haven't we thought of this before, sending out a survey and getting as many responses as possible. So I'm just wondering what people's thoughts are on that.
If you could remind us of that by email, and we could put that on the agenda for the next meeting. We could discuss it then, and it sounds like a good idea to me. And if you get any updates on it, especially to the effect that they don't want us, you can let us know about that too.
Okay, so I'll reach out to them. And then second thing was they brought up social media outreach, and this is maybe something that could have been brought up in outreach, but the idea of us starting the Bloomington Environmental Commission, starting a Facebook page and a Twitter account for outreach, running that idea across people's thoughts.
Why not?
The Facebook page is something we've tried to deal with before. I think there is one, and that it's being run or not being run, but that the admins are someone that was here a long time ago. I remember at one point on outreach, we were trying to do something with that, and we realized that one, it exists and we don't have control over it, and two, I think something in our rules might have made it tricky for us to accomplish what we wanted, but I unfortunately don't remember many specifics.
Would there be any issues of us just creating a fresh one, even if the old one still exists and it's just not in use?
Probably not. There was a rule in the city that there would be one city Facebook page, and individual commissions and boards like us weren't supposed to have them. And that, I think, is no longer a rule. The downside is just who's going to manage it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if there was to be social media, I was thinking about being someone who'd volunteer to manage social media accounts, having some familiarity with them and having a technical background. Especially now when people are so isolated, social media is obviously, even before, was still the best way to get things out, and talking about surveys and things like that. And I don't know, just a good way to communicate with the public. And, you know, like right now, we don't have anyone really from the public at this meeting, but having a social media account, which allows to broadcast when our meetings are, we might get more people from the public. That was brought up in the Monroe County Environmental Commission meeting. You know, I think I was the only person there from the public. And they said if we could get social media going, we might get more people here, which, you know, the difference between having one person and 5 people makes all the difference in what a commission does as far as getting their ambitions out there.
Yeah, I think it sounds like something we could do if it's something we're allowed to do. And I'm sure we could make a procedure for who posts and how it changes hands if people roll off the commission, and having a number of admins so that there's multiple people who can do something if someone's away for a while. I bet we could make something work if we're allowed.
Well, let me check on it. I think we are now. I just don't know the rules. So let me check on it.
Okay. Another item for next month's agenda, I guess.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Congratulations, Kate.
Dave.
Sorry if I answered the phone when I had my system on. I thought I was muted. Nothing else to say.
Okay. I have kind of a general announcement about what our outlook is going to be for the rest of this year. Number one, it looks like we don't have any idea when Andrew's going to come back. That may not be at all this year. So we're looking at an acting chair, possibly at least for a couple of months, possibly for the rest of the year, coupled with the problem with not being able to have face-to-face meetings and losing our interns for at least for a while. We're probably going to be kind of low-key the rest of the year. Certainly, if anybody has letters they want to send or things they want to take on, we can do that, but we're probably not going to take on any big projects the rest of the year. Having said that, next year is our 50-year anniversary for the Environmental Commission, and hopefully we will be able to come up with some event to celebrate that, and we will certainly try to get going on a higher scale again as soon as we can. And so I feel kind of sorry for the new members who, since we've not even met face-to-face, haven't really seen how we normally operate. But I just ask you to stick with us until we can get back in gear here. And that's all I have. Anything else?
I have something.
Okay, shoot.
I want to thank Kate and maybe Jesus. He might be here for another meeting. He's not quite sure yet because he's also got a job in Washington. He's just unsure about a starting date, so we don't know if he'll be here next month or not. But I just want to give my thanks to them, and Kate especially, because she's been with us for over 2 years. for doing such a great job and being such a great team member for the EC.
Thank you, Linda. I've learned a lot. I liked being here. So thanks for hiring me.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I forgot I was going to mention one thing. I was in the EPA on a summer fellowship back about 1982, and while I was there, I wrote a risk analysis for Bloomington's PCBs that later got published. So it was a different EPA then.
I'd also like to thank both of you for your help and participation. Thank you, and good luck with your careers.
Thank you.
I meant to do that as well. And once you've become stars in DC, don't forget us.
Okay.
Stay off cable news.
Anything else? If not, we're adjourned.